Hi guys, welcome back to Two Worlds Collide podcast. On today's episode, we have Senator Malcolm Roberts. Malcolm has been leading the charge against the woke ideology, climate change, and everything in between. I hope you guys enjoy. But mate, Malcolm Roberts, welcome to Adelaide.
Thank you very much, Sam. Good to be here.
Mate, my wife just said on the way in that she's a fan of your work, and because I was off social media for years. I'll give you a bit of a background story. I left the military. And in the military, we couldn't really have social media.
I mean what I'm about to say. Thanks for your service.
Oh, thank you very much.
It's not a tried American thing. It's sincere because the Australian Armed Forces are doing a marvellous job.
Yeah, they are. I think we punch well above our weight, and we've shown that over years and years, whether it's been World War I, World War II, Vietnam, or into the Middle East wars that we've done. So we've always done a fantastic job, and I'm very proud of my service as well, and very proud of the men that that I fought next to. And I'm proud of the memories that I created, and I'm also proud of the fact, and it's devastating. But I had a cousin. We spoke about this before. I had a cousin that died over in Afghanistan. I had a few mates that died over in Afghanistan as well, and I'll never forget the sacrifices that they made over there to keep our sort of beautiful country the way it is. To have the morals and courage of those men sacrifice built into a foundation of what our government stands for, which is unfortunately being drifted so far one way now that we're losing ourselves as a nation, I think, which also sort of gets me to the point where I think One Nation at the moment, they seem to be going really, really well in the polls, and I think that's happening is because, Labor and Liberal, they don't stand for anything, and the more research I do with all of this, the more I sit down, the more I look into stuff, I think to myself, look, Labor and Liberal, they're just two sides of the one coin.
Two cheeks of the same arsehole.
Yeah, that's it. Well, you put a lot better than that. Maybe that's that Queenslander spin you got on it. Mate, you're here for a speaking event this afternoon?
Yep.
Yeah. So what are you doing there? Tell me about that.
Just talking about One Nation and our rise and formation of branches. When Pauline took off in the polls, literally the state election polls, she got 23% of the vote overnight. She didn't even run in a seat. She was a federal candidate, not a state candidate. That was in 1998. She got 23% of the vote, and Liberal and Labor crapped themselves. They didn't know what to do because they could suddenly see their little duopoly, their uni party, under threat. We had a real alternative to the uni party. So they conspired. They worked together. Prime Minister Howard and his team in the Liberal National Federal Government, and Peter Beattie and his team in the state government, they conspired to knock her out. And so what they did was Beattie changed some laws and they trumped up some charges against her, put her in jail, and then she got out an appeal.
She go to jail?
She went to jail for 13 weeks, I think.
What for?
Cooking the books, fraud on party, I think. Something that I realised was not true anyway, so I just dismiss it, so I don't know the actual thing. But I think it was something to do with rigging the books on party membership, which she didn't do. She did not do it. They had a supporters group. Anyway, it's a long story. But she didn't do it. And she was released on appeal after, I think, 13 weeks. I might be wrong on that.
I'm surprised they didn't try and go further because you know what they did with Trump? They bankrupted him, tried to throw him in prison, and then essentially tried to assassinate him.
Well, he's not really a Republican. He's not really a Democrat. He's from outside the party system. The second thing they tried to do was call her a racist. And because look, the Greens keep talking, and other people some of the Labor keep talking about racism and making accusations of racist. Why do they do that? Because Australians don't like racism. You're looked upon as a villain if you're a racist in this country. Not many Australians are racist. There are always some, but in every country. But Australians are not racist. And so they tarnished her reputation by calling her that. They had the media jump on board and all coordinated a campaign. And now the people of Australia recognise she's not racist. And they recognise also that she's been saying what she's been saying for 30 years on so many issues, and she's damn well right.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's a point back there, maybe 15, 20 years ago, she said, if you keep importing people from parts of the globe, from lawless parts of society, don't be surprised when their lawlessness follows. And, we're looking at this right now. This is where a lot of people come at me and they're like, this is that racist thing they throw at me, right? I always point out there is under 1% of the population committing 99% of the machete crime in Melbourne. Now, that is black youth machete crime.
Yeah.
And it's like if we keep...
And you've got to call it for what it is.
Yeah, you have to. And this is what a lot of people say to me, you're a racist for calling that out. And my response is, if we can't identify the problem, we'll never fix the problem. For example, what's the first thing that a drug addict or alcoholic does to get clean? They admit they have a problem.
Yep.
So
Take responsibility for
So
it.
if we have a government can't sit here and say we have a black youth machete crime problem in Melbourne, we'll never fix it, ever. And if they keep tiptoeing around the issue here, you know, kids will just keep hacking each other to pieces. And like, that's a fact. That's going to keep happening. And like Jacinta Allen, that's her name. Yeah. She's got blood on her hands. That lady showers in blood every single afternoon. I absolutely despise her. She turns, same as Albo. Albo should have had the balls, that little beta male. He should have had the balls to call up Jacinta Allen and say, hey, we got to get on top of this. But because it's black youth machete crime, none of them will touch it. I bet if it was white kids running around, they would hopping each other to pieces. You know, they'd be calling it toxic masculinity and stuff like that, right? Because they want to jump on...
Toxic white masculinity.
Yeah, that's right. And they would jump on stuff like that. But none of them want to seem to touch it because it's black youth machete crime. And I just think to myself, well, guys, you know, we're going to keep killing kids here if, one, we keep importing from that part of the globe. Two, we don't strengthen up on our bail laws. And then three, we don't admit that we have a problem. Like it's the Swiss cheese analogy, how you cut the Swiss cheese and there's a hole through it, and you just got the perfect alignment of series of events, and it just leads to catastrophic disaster, like 2 kids getting killed. That's what's happening at the moment in Melbourne. And like, I mean, I could clean that place up in 2 hours.
Yep. It's simple. All you got to do is enforce the law equally to everyone. Yeah. But the other thing that happened with Pauline in 1998 in Queensland was that they infiltrated her party branches.
How do you mean infiltrated? Tell me that.
Liberal Party and Labor Party members of party members infiltrated One Nation branches and destroyed them from within. And so what's happened is that Pauline's...
Like sleeper?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So what's happened since then, Pauline has said no branches other than state branches. So we've had state branches, we've got branches. But what she now realises is it's so strong, the party, and we've got such systems in place and a good, strong constitution that we can withstand that. And also, so she's now setting up branches in every federal electorate around the country, 151 electorates.
Well,
so
I think
that's
the
why I'm
opportunity...
here. That's why I'm here.
There's a big opportunity at the moment, because what I'm seeing in the polls, people are just thinking, well, Liberal is just Labor, Susan Lay's a teal plant, and the moderates in the Labor Party, well, they're the Greens members.
Correct.
And it's like, there's nothing else for the ordinary Australian now. And when I talk about ordinary Australians, I just say people with common sense.
But there is a good thing coming out of it for another party. Well, good thing for all of Australia coming out of it with another party on the fall, and that's the Greens. They're under 9% in the polling. And so that's wonderful. People have woken up to the Greens. The Greens are anti-environment, but more importantly, they're anti-human.
Yeah,
and they're anti-Australian.
I was talking to my mum about this, right? Because I love talking to my mum about issues, because she watches ABC, but then she also watches my social media channel. Super base lady, right? She's like really open-minded, so she gets information from a whole lot of places. And she read an article that the Greens kicked out their person that formed the party, because he was like, hang on guys, we stood here for like the environment 15 years ago, and now we're getting confused with what's a male and a female. Like, we've lost ourselves. That's
Drew
the
Hutton,
guy.
yeah. Queensland co-founder of the party, but founder of the Greens in Queensland.
Yeah.
And a pretty good man, I'd say. I'd certainly disagree with him on many, many topics of the when it comes to the real environment. But he's got his beliefs, and he's genuine. I'm absolutely convinced of that. But he's now standing up against the woke agenda, and doing it really, really well.
Well, that's good. Good someone from that Greens background can stand up with that. I had a lady in here, Angie, forget her last name. She's a women's rights activist, but she's a full greenie. But she is politically lost because...
the Greens have abandoned her.
But and Labor and Liberal, because they all think that men in dresses can go into women-only spaces. I had her on talking about this last week. She's like, I'm politically homeless. And I said, why don't you vote One Nation? They'll stop that stuff. And she goes, I just don't agree with other their policies, because she's been on that side for so long. I said, well, there's got to be a time in life where you compromise.
Well, maybe she should have a look at them, because a lot of people who disagree with their policies have never read them. And so then they read them and they swing over to us, because our policies come from the people of Australia. That's where they came from, because the number one thing that Pauline and I do is listen. because that's what we're supposed to do. You know, when I first did my first speech in the Senate, I started with the words, "As a servant to the people of Queensland and Australia." The Greens snickered, the Labor Party snickered, some of the Liberals rolled their eyes, but I said that every speech for 2 or 3 years in the Senate, and I only just stopped doing it probably about 2 years ago because we need to have a better opening now. People recognise that that's what my job is. I mean, you pay my wages.
Yeah, I know.
Whoever's watching this, if they're a taxpayer in Australia, you're paying my wages. And so we have to actually serve the people who pay us.
Yeah, we're also paying the wages of someone that stands up there and says, "You white people," that whatever that chick's
Marine
name
Faruqi.
was. That's the one. I did a reel on that last night, being like, if you think that like us white people, take your Australia hating attitude, Pakistan first attitude, back to Pakistan.
Yep.
Like,
and we'll drive it to the airport.
yeah, and like enjoy that, because Pakistan right now are in a border war with the Taliban. I've fought the Taliban. Trust me, they're ruthless. Enjoy that. You know, enjoy that over there. Enjoy your freedom of speech over there, which you probably won't get it in that type of country because they think women are second-rate citizens.
Correct.
Like, these people, man. And then that other, who's that other Greens guy that came out and said the Australian flag is racist? Gee, oh man, I love teeing off on Greens people. That Australian, he came out and said the Australian flag is racist. Male? Yeah, male. He said it a couple of days ago. I did it in my reel yesterday. I don't know his name.
Oh, not Nick McKim.
Maybe.
He said that he denigrated everyone who took part in the marches.
Nazis. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he said that. And then he said in his speech as well, we want to replace the Australian flag, but we're not there yet. And I'm like, are you talking about...
Oh, that's right. I'm pretty sure that was Nick McKim.
Yeah. And I thought to myself, are you talking about the Australian flag that was draped over the coffins of my mates that came back home from Afghanistan dead? I'm like, is that the Australian flag you're talking about? You piece of shit. Sorry, I didn't mean to be that, but I get a bit.
That's fine,
because you can see my passion when people talk down in that flag, because I know what it represents, and I've seen it firsthand.
Well, you're an Australian, mate. You're an Australian, and the number one thing we've got to protect, restore, is our heritage. You can't change it. There's a guy, you know, Rukshan.
Yeah,
Rukshan Fernando.
Yeah.
He said it so well. I recommend watching about a 5-minute video he put out on Facebook, or X. He really nails it. He says we've got to be proud of our heritage. And the heritage is not from Sri Lanka, where he came from, not from India, where I was born. The heritage is from Mother England. And so, you know, I welcome people like Rukshan. I welcome people like myself who come here from another country. But above all, we are of Western civilization, and we have Anglo-Celtic heritage. And that's extremely important. And we have a Christian background, Christian principles. So one of the things about Christianity is, if I'm a Christian and you're not, I don't force you to become a Christian.
Thou shalt love their neighbour.
That's right. So, but hopefully by the way I conduct myself, you will say, wonder what's driving him. And then you'll make approaches to me, and it spreads. So our Constitution starts with a Christian first sentence. So all of these are being destroyed calculatedly by the United Nations and the World Economic Forum to destroy our identity, destroy our culture, destroy our way of life. So everything that's being driven in this country is being driven by the UN World Economic Forum, but it's not implemented by them. They've got no sovereignty over our country, no control over our country. It's put in place by dickheads in Parliament. It's that simple, betraying the people of Australia.
And I always think to myself, why? What are they getting for betraying Australia? You know what I mean? Like what's Chris Bowen getting for putting our energy bills so high with this green energy push? Like, let me tell you, and this probably happens everywhere, right? Across all forms of government, but I'll point something out to you, and you probably already know.
Well, I jump in there because I think what he's hoping for is that it gets, because he said this, he wants to lock it in so that it's irreversible. It'll be irreversible in a few years' time, but by then he'll be retired. He won't care. What they're doing is looking to make sure they win as many elections as they can before they retire, and then piss off.
And then just have a country that
they don't care.
We're almost in a managed decline. I feel like someone's managing.
We are in a managed decline.
Yeah, and we're managing our decline. Like, if you want to fix the country, there's going to be some harsh things that you're going to have to do that might hurt for 10 to 15 months. But on the other side of that, I mean, there's some light. There's some light on there. But with Chris Bowen, I did some research on this. Chris Bowen's old boss, Julia Gillard, she runs a thing called HMC firm, which is a green energy investment firm.
She's chair.
Yeah, so she's chair of it. Chris Bowen, with his $20 billion worth of subsidies, right, gave Julia Gillard one of these subsidies worth whatever, right? I can't remember what the.
Well, you won't find out the number because they hide it.
Yeah, so they hide it.
And he set it up. He set it up so that is the case, and you can't search for it in FOI, Freedom of Information, Order for Production of Documents in the Senate. It's beyond search.
Which is
that's
just
done deliberately.
It's wild. That is wild, and
it's dishonest.
Yeah, and he gives all these like practically no bid contracts out, subsidised as well to Julia Gillard, and then like a week later, I find out she flips it.
Yep,
and sells it to someone else.
Yep,
like just after she didn't have any investments into it, she didn't have any backing or anyone backing her with money, but she gets his subsidies and then flips it. It's like you just gave him $50 million.
Or however much. It could have been much. It could have been billions.
Yeah,
it could have been. More. You know, Warren Buffett, who's the shrewdest investor ever in the history of our history, he said, "Wind turbines are a lousy investment. Subsidised wind turbines are a wonderful investment." Yeah. So what they're doing now, they're not only making the rules in the national electricity market, which is a national electricity racket, a bureaucratic racket that John Howard started. All of this starts with John Howard and the Liberals. Every single bit of it. Renewable energy target, the national electricity market, the stealing of farmers' property rights. You may not know about that, the stealing of farmers' property rights.
No, I did a reel about it, how they can now in Victoria, they can now just run whatever they need to run through anyone's farmland without permission.
Well, John Howard started that and he destroyed the competitive federalism tenet of the Constitution. His government destroyed all of that. They had the first carbon dioxide tax in place as a policy. They didn't enact it, but they had it as policy. So all of that came from him. And so what's happening, it is a managed decline. What were we talking about in the first place, about the energy?
The green energy with Chris Bowen just handing out subsidies to Julia Gillard.
Right, so that's right. National electricity market is favouring... I don't call it green. Solar and wind. That's what they're doing, which is destroying coal.
Renewables.
Renewables. Yeah. Intermittents. Subsidising them directly. So we're sending our coal to China to make wind turbines and solar panels, and subsidising them to make them, to transport them, to install them, to run them.
They're not worth the carbon footprint they sit on.
Correct. Every solar panel you see. In an industrial complex, and every wind turbine you see is a symbol of increasing energy prices. So not only that, now they've got this competitive. What is it called? I forgot what CIS stands for. But what that does is it puts a floor under the revenue, so you can't drop too far. So they've got all of these subsidies and guarantees of income for them. And that means they're highly competitive against coal. Without that, they're buggered. They're completely shot.
Yeah,
and we pay for that in our electricity bill, every bit of that, or our taxes, or both.
Yeah, I read something the other day where we're going up against, like, we're going up 9% again or something. Where did I read that? A couple of days ago. Energy bills are going up 9% again.
It's gone up 40% in the last 3 years.
Yeah, and we're due to go up another 9% or something. And I think to myself, I'm like, are these guys just trying to manage us into like some weird digital ID where no one can move anywhere and everyone's paying everything? Yes. And it's like, yeah, that's what true. I think.
But China, think about this. A few years ago, it used to be the number one cost category, the highest cost category in any manufacturing company was labour. But since then, we've automated a lot of manufacturing, and now the number one cost category is electricity. So when we jack up the prices through subsidies of electricity, and we pay those subsidies to China, where does our manufacturing go?
Over there.
In Australia, we generate coal-fired power station electricity from coal-fired power stations sitting at a mine mouth. So the coal comes out of the mine straight into the power station. Mm-hmm. And we sell it for 26 to 33 cents a megawatt hour, dollars. So what happens is that's about triple what it used to be. We used to have the cheapest electricity in the world, bar none, based upon coal-fired power.
I'm not surprised. We have the world's best coal.
So we send our coal from, that's correct, we send our coal from the mine mouth, railway to a port where we transship it. All of this costs money. Thousands of kilometres over the seas to China. Port transships it again, more money. Railroad 400 kilometres inland. And they sell it, our coal, they sell the coal-fired power for 12 cents a kilowatt hour. Half to 1/3 of the cost we pay in Australia. And so then we're sending our subsidies to them, and we're sending our jobs to them, and we're sending our manufacturing, and we're creating dependence. So thank you for fighting for us in Afghanistan, but it means nothing now because we're putting the hands of security in the hands of the Chinese Communist Party. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. And people don't realise as well, whatever they burn over there, we share the same sky and same atmosphere with China. Like, when they come out when all these governments come out and say, "Oh, global warming is real," it's like, no, you can't even stand on your own footings of that saying, because whatever we don't burn here, China is burning over there. And if climate change is real, man-made climate change is real, then why are you sending over the thing that fuels the fire? I always ask myself this question, like Chris Bowen, Penny Wong, Anthony Albanese. They stand there and they bang on about human-made climate change being real so they can get the vote
and
of
Susan
the
Ley.
Yeah, and Susan Ley.
And Taylor.
And Susan Ley, and practically the whole Liberal Party. I call anyone that's right. So you guys are the only right-leaning party, I think. Everyone else is like the radical left.
And we would have been mainstream in the 1990s.
Yeah.
That's how far they've dragged the whole country.
Yeah, the political goalpost has shifted.
Yeah.
But yeah, just back to my point. Like these people, they don't even believe. I don't even believe what they're saying because there's none of that makes sense at all. It's like, hang on, guys. Like, if you were serious about climate change, you would have called up Xi Jinping and just about, hey mate, sorry, this coal stuff has to stop. You know what I mean?
Well, I said that in the protest in Canberra. I went for a giggle. Yeah. There's a protest on our side about the climate. So I went and had a talk to a few of the protesters, and I said, "Where's the head of your protest?" "Oh, he's not here. He's somewhere else." I said, "Are you going to protest outside the Chinese embassy?" Well, when you do, come back and see me.
Yeah.
But carbon dioxide is not a pollutant.
It's plant food.
It's plant food, but it's a natural trace organic compound. And organic means contains carbon. It's colourless, odourless, tasteless. It's not a pollutant. It's an enricher of life on this planet. It's essential for all life on this planet. The level of carbon dioxide, I could go on for hours, but the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is controlled by the temperature of the oceans. Henry's law of chemistry proves that. The data shows it. When we shut down our industries during the 2009 recession, severe recession around the world after the global financial crisis, and in 2020 under the COVID restrictions, you'd expect that what they said was if you shut down carbon dioxide production from humans or drastically reduce it, instead of increasing, it'll peak out and start going down. It didn't miss a beat. It kept increasing. And that proves that we don't control the level of carbon dioxide. And what we're doing is absolute bullshit because it has no impact on the level of carbon dioxide. But in addition, the level of carbon dioxide, not only is it not controlled by humans, you look at China, Brazil, India, Russia, Europe, America, producing record quantities of carbon dioxide. And what's happened to the temperature in the last 30 years? It's flat. El Nino goes up, La Nina goes down, El Nino, La Nina. It's just flat. And so there's not even an effect on temperature, which we know that, and the science proves that. But what they're doing is they're calling it a pollutant because pollutants are bad. Now, what you're pointing out too is the carbon dioxide you're exhaling. You took it in at 0.04% carbon dioxide. You're exhaling it at 4 to 5%, which is an increase of 125 times. So your carbon dioxide, because it's in the one atmosphere, is flowing all the way around the world. So what are they going to do? Shut you down?
Where the carbon dioxide they want to expel.
And that's what it's all about, control of energy. It's not about changing the energy source, it's about control of energy. But the second thing is that in China, they're producing massive quantities of real pollutants, sulfur dioxide, nitrous oxides, particulates. And those tend to be localized and they tend to get taken out of the economy and they do their damage locally. So what we're doing is we're increasing pollution by sending it to China. And that's all that's happening. So we're increasing global environmental pollution, and we're increasing the despoiling of our environment through wind turbines and solar panels. It's just anti-environment. The Greens don't give a damn about it. Bob Brown, the founder of the Greens, Drew Hutton, the co-founder of the Greens, are now calling out solar and wind.
I reckon the Greens are getting seriously desperate as well, because what their speech now in Parliament is becoming desperate speech.
They used the word nature yesterday.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they've got to bring that back somehow.
Yeah, but mate, they're starting to get real. That's all I can see, right? Because now I watch this game from afar, and I commentate a bit on it. I can just see them getting.
Sorry for me, I got to put up with them right near me.
Yeah, that's it. I just spit at them. Not sorry, I don't spit at them. I just do 3-minute reels at them and bully them over the line. But yeah, I think it just looks like they're getting very desperate in their wording. Their wording is increasing. Their rhetoric and wording is increasing. They're taking a more Australia-hating stance, and they are getting towards a position where they are like Australia at last. And yeah, I just think they're getting completely desperate, and desperate times is calling for desperate measures. They're increasing their language, and they're knowing that they're starting to slip in the polls.
Well, what they're doing, the core of their political campaigns is to create victims. Transgender, females, Africans, anybody who's not a white male and Australian. That's who they create, and they portray you as a victim. Now, because of your background, that when someone takes on the mantle of victim, they're buggered. Because mantle of victimhood destroys your independence, destroys yourself, your self-image of yourself.
They become compromised.
Well, they become compromised, but they also become dependent on other people. And I don't just mean financially, I mean in so many other ways, dependent for their self-esteem. So that they're compromised and they're broken. And they're creating victims in this country, and those victims are impoverished for life. And when I say impoverished, not necessarily financially, but morally in so many ways. And that's how they get their votes. And then they appeal to the victims. People are starting to wake up. Now you see the environment, real environments, are forsaking the Greens. Stephen Nowakowski in North Queensland done a phenomenal job of exposing the wind turbines and solar complex. They're going to carpet this country. They're going to blanket this country. They're going to suffocate this country and the seas around us. And the Greens are saying, shut up, Steve. Stephen was a Green. And you know what woke him up? He's got a highly intelligent mind. He's got the real grasp for data, and he went out and got the facts. He's a North Queenslander, so the environment is passionate to him. He's a genuine conservationist, a genuine environmentalist, and he went for a look for himself, and he was horrified with the damage that the wind turbines and solar panels are doing. And they're destroying our food capacity, food production capacity.
Explain that to me, because I've never heard anyone say that.
Well, have a look at Stephen Nowakowski, rainforest reserves. Okay, so the way they're destroying the food capacity is they're carpeting good farmland in solar panels, just carpeting it. And we're not talking about a few hundred hectares. We're talking about thousands of square kilometres. And they're destroying offshore habitats of whales and other species from Western Australia through to Tasmania. Bob Brown is now opposing, Christine Mills now opposing the Robbins Island wind turbine complex. I won't call it a farm. Bush Wilson in the Greens and Nick McKim in the Greens, the guy you called a dickhead, and arguably many of his things make him a dickhead, but they're opposing the Greens. But the Greens won't back down because they just want wind and solar.
Yeah, it seems more like an ideological push
they're doing. But it's part of an agenda because they're the foot soldiers of the UN. They bring in UN policies into this country. They get them established. They create emotional stories about them. Then the Labor Party says, geez, we're losing votes, so we better adopt those policies. And then the Liberals say, geez, we're losing votes, we better adopt those policies. And that's how you get the UN policies coming into this country. Net zero came from the UN. But it was put in place by Morrison.
I think one of the biggest things, right, because there are a whole bunch of cultural battles that we need to win over the next couple of years, and there's a lot of accounts like me now starting to rise up. Like if you get,
thank you.
And I always think if you get one or two of me rise up, then there's a whole slipstream of other people that have got a mic at home and they start to talk. And I've got a whole bunch of people now that follow me, and they're doing similar things to me. And I'm like, people are like, are you angry these guys are copying you? I'm like, no, I love it. I want people to be bigger than me. I want people to be better than me. I want people to strive to destroy my numbers. Because if they do that, and it's just like, it's Australia first attitude. And like, if we can push that, then we can swing the cultural battle back in this country. And when you swing the cultural battle back, then then politics will shift because culture is upstream from politics.
Yep.
And this is why I get so annoyed with politicians sometimes. I think to myself, why weren't you talking about this 10 months ago? Like Like, why didn't you have the balls to stand up in the Senate and say that? And, you know, there are only a few people that do in this country, and I think that's why the shift has come back to you guys. But I want to talk about the economy, because I think this is one of the main battles that need to be won and lost in regards to the next election. Like, cost of living, I don't care what Jim Chalmers says and how he lies consistently.
He's the Treasury equivalent of Chris Bowen.
Yeah.
They hide the truth, they tell lies, they distort.
Yeah, their immigration graph only runs off a 1 year rolling average, 2 year rolling average, something like that. It's like, guys, measure inflation. Measure inflation back from 2020. We're up like 45, 50%. So don't tell me inflation is at 2.5 or 3. Well, like, at least compound it. You know what I mean?
And then Sam, I've moved twice when Labor has put in it might have been under the Liberals as well. Yeah, it was. First time was under the Liberals, under Morrison. I've moved twice to index brackets, tax brackets, right? Because what happens is, as your wages go up because of inflation, the cost of groceries goes up because of inflation, the cost of purchases go up under inflation. So your costs go up, your wages go up, but more tax because you move to a higher tax bracket. So what we said was, let's index tax brackets so that the tax brackets move up at the same time, so you stay in, okay?
Yeah.
So that's basic. So when we first moved it, my office moved it as an amendment to incorporate tax brackets into Labor's and Liberals' Treasury bills. The Liberals came out and said, we love the idea, but not now. And the Labor Party came out and said, we love the idea, but not now. And the second time, we love the idea, but not now. The third, and then Labor's, we love the idea, but not now. Dave Sharma, who's a prominent senator from New South Wales, he even said that he loves the idea. And that was 3 weeks later. He said the Liberal Party and the Labor Party both voted against the indexation of tax brackets. That's how much they love the idea. They voted against it because they recognise that they can't run the country without stealing your money. And that's what they're doing. So Dave Sharma said in his first speech in the Parliament, would have been 3 weeks earlier, he said, I want to push the removal of the indexation of tax brackets. We had the ideal opportunity. So what I'm saying is that they say one thing and do another. They're not interested in the least in the citizens of Australia.
No, and that's probably pointed out with where we're going at the moment. So, like, in regards to One Nation's policy, obviously you guys want to move back to coal and gas, which would be massive on electricity, demand cheaper electricity. But what other things, you know, because obviously that has, inflation is a whole bunch of things, but what other policies do you guys have in place to make living easier for Australians?
A housing policy works on supply, demand, cost of housing and finance. So the supply of housing, we can first of all free up so many houses because we want to ban foreign ownership of Australian homes.
Good.
Foreign ownership of farmland, that's immediate. It'll be phased in over 2 or 3 years, but it's immediate. That'll dramatically increase the supply and availability, which will decrease the prices of homes. We also want to cut the demand. So we've got a net negative migration policy. So every year about 220,000 people leave every year, roughly, and what we would do is let in 130 to replace them. But that's a net negative migration. So we would have less than zero. So we would decrease the net migration numbers. Every year the population would fall until we catch up with infrastructure. So we would also deport immediately, Sam, anybody who's here illegally. And that's 100,000 people now.
Right now?
Right now, there's 100,000, it gets worse, 100,000 people here on contravention of their resident visas. That's 100,000 we would deport, remigrate, call it what you want, get rid of them straight away. Then we've got about an estimated 100,000 students, international students, who are here illegally. They've either graduated and not gone home, or they've breached their visa. So we would send them home. So there's more housing and more beds that we can free up. What are some of the others? Anyway, that's supply, that's demand. We've also got ways of reducing the cost of construction. The Labor Party and the Liberal Party have both supported the inclusion of NDIS requirements in the building code, the National Building Code. An independent survey said that, a review said that it's costing $50,000 to the price of a typical home. $50,000. And we don't have everyone living in homes that need to be built for the disabled. So if you want to do that, by all means do it. But that's forcing someone who's not disabled to pay $50,000 extra for their house. So we would cancel that. completely. We removed the GST on building materials for 4 years to reduce the cost of building a house. We'd also roll in, at the moment, if you're on a HEX debt, you can't get a bank loan for a house because you can't have the two loans. What we would do is roll the HEX debt into your house loan so that you have one loan. It'll increase the payments for another 4 years, but at least you'll be able to get in and start buying a house straight away. Labor's scheme is actually increasing the cost of the price of houses because it's handing money out. What's the last one is that we will give you access to your superannuation account, not the fund, the account. So your account will be able to invest in your house, maybe pay the deposit for your house. And then as your house price increases and the land price increases, your superannuation account will get the benefit of that. So that's some of the policies for housing.
I think one of the biggest things with housing and why we are where we are today, after talking to some friends that are very knowledgeable on this, is Kevin Rudd allowed foreign students, which practically opened up foreign investment into our housing in 2008. That sent housing from 4 times earning to 10 times earning. Our birth rate
Sydney's around 14.
Yeah.
That's unaffordable. You know what we're doing as a country, what we're doing as a parliament in Canberra, the governments of Liberal and Labor, is they're lying to the young people. I'm much older than you are. When I was growing up, we were promised, if you study hard, get good grades, work hard, become a tradie, settle down, buy a house, have kids, that's your life. Wonderful. Nowadays, people who are 18 to 40 are saying, that's bullshit. That's a lie. That's impossible. And they're just switching off.
Yeah,
that's
terrible. That saying that the Australian dream is to own your own home. That is a myth to the younger generation.
Well, I saw someone posted on Facebook. I've got it here somewhere. My grandparents, on a single income, built a house. I, on a double income, can't afford to rent a bloody house.
It's not even grandparents. I'll tell you the story about my brother. He left school after year 12, went and worked for my dad, and it was a formwork company. They were building massive concrete, and he just worked there, and then he went into cranes, got into cranes, and he got himself a good job for about $60,000 a year, $65,000 a year back in 2005 or something like that. Now, my dad did sort of take care of him a bit, but again, it's still, $60,000 to $65,000. He purchased his first house for $220,000 about 10K north of here, which is still in a nice suburb, when his earnings were $60,000. A house is $220,000. So that's that 4 times earning. And he could afford that by himself. And back in 2005 or 2008, the birth rate was at 2.1. When Kevin Rudd allowed foreign investment in, the birth rate now has dropped to 1.5. And it's like, we will die as a civilization of Australia if we don't now rely on immigration. And it's like, hang on, how about we fix the housing market? That does mean, unfortunate for all you boomers out there, that does mean that some of your housing investment is going to have to come down. But at the same time, we're going to have to go through a little bit of pain to recorrect what we have, the disaster we have created back in 2008. And again, Labor and Liberal just keep swapping over. And it's like, the more...
The same arsehole.
That's it. The more research I do on this, it's like, well, maybe we do give One Nation a try. You know what I mean? So I'll say something like that.
So the other things, looking at the tax directly, income splitting, we would allow the filing of joint tax returns by both the mother and the father. So that dramatically reduces your tax. So someone on average income would reduce their tax by about $10,000 a year.
Oh, there you go.
We would also reduce the excise cut the fuel excise in half, which dramatically has a cascading effect right through the whole economy, because everything in our country involves transport. So that cuts that dramatically. We would cut the alcohol excise, eliminate it on beer and spirits served in hospitality venues, pubs, clubs, restaurants. So these are just some of the things. We worked out that the last election campaign, a person on the average income who's currently got currently on single income, looking after kids, would have a saving of about $13,000 a year. Because what's happened, not only that, was, as I mentioned with that example a little while ago, we used to have one parent at home. When I was growing up, one parent was at home. That is phenomenal for social outcomes, phenomenal for keeping crime down. And now we've got both parents frantically working and they can't keep up. So that's how we improve not only the social aspect, but also the financial aspect of raising children in this country. So they're basics. But the other thing, Sam, is that people then say, what's that going to cost? All of our policies are fully costed. The cost of those putting more money back in your pocket, we know is $40 billion. Where's that money going to come from? It's coming from $90 billion that we've not estimated, we've actually fully costed on savings. Like $30 billion will be saved by simply shutting down the Department of Climate Change and Energy. Not only that, that's the direct cost. There'll be more from the indirect costs, savings to businesses, small businesses and employers. So we're saving much more than 30 billion a year. So, but then there are other savings like the health department. Get rid of the federal health department or shut it right down to coming back to basics, which I can talk about in a minute, and get those health department looked after by the state. Competitive federalism again, and so many other bureaucracies. Department of Education back to the states. Department of the Environment back to the states. Aboriginal Affairs back to the states. You remove the duplication and you save billions of dollars. We've estimated $90 billion. Where's the rest of the $50 billion go, Malcolm? Well, $20 billion in paying off $30 billion in paying off debt. If we don't start paying off our debt, which Morrison racked up under COVID, mismanagement.
$300 billion they borrowed.
It's more like closer to 500.
Yeah, okay.
That's how much they distributed. If we don't start doing that, pretty soon, apart from NDIS, the interest payments will be the biggest single line item on our budget, bigger than defence.
Yeah, I'm all over the debt. What are we? Almost $1 trillion in debt every single year. We spend more than we earn. If the government thinks like that, and it
causes inflation.
Yeah, it does massively. And if the government thinks like that, then why do I have to pay off my debt over 30 years for a house and the government doesn't have to do it? I always think to myself that. And then also as well, so we spend more than we earn every single year. And in that difference when we spend more than we earn, we borrow that from banks, government debt.
Banks love it.
Yeah, they do. Because and then who buys that? China superannuation fund, they buy the debt and then we owe them interest repayments every single year. And that's only going up and up and up. So every single year, China, your superannuation, the banks, they are loving it. They're cashing in. But guess what's happening? You and I, out of our tax-paying dollars, are going off to paying that debt. I get so frustrated when
How's your baby? 15 weeks?
15 weeks.
She will be paying for this.
100%. And I think to myself every single time, why am I paying for a country that can't manage their own debt? Like I shouldn't have to pay off the poor management of Jim Chalmers. I shouldn't have to be paying off Chris Bowen and his green energy illusion where they're throwing billions of dollars at it. Like this is because when we have our tax-paying dollars going off to paying off the debt only, that's less for hospitals, that's less for schools, and that's less for roads. And I think to myself, I'm like, guys, like, what do I have to do here? Do we have to like storm Parliament to be like, hey guys, it's time that you guys pay off the debt now because we're only managing a decline. Everyone in Australia is starting to wake up to this as well now. I've done a few rules on debt and money, and everyone's just like, the comments are like, are you serious? Are you serious this has happened? Now, before anyone tries to get me for inciting violence, I don't mean storm Parliament, I mean protest on Parliament, by the way. So
I'm glad you made that qualification.
Yeah. Because everyone listens to my stuff now. Everyone listens to my stuff, and I know I can get in trouble for what I say.
Sam, we are in the world's richest country on resources per capita. We've got the best climate of any country in the world. We have got the best people of any country in the world. Sadly, the education system is being managed in a managed decline as well and being destroyed from within.
It's being weaponized against us.
Well, not only, exactly, but not only that, it's being... The national curriculum was introduced by John Howard. There's that name again, Liberal National. Stalwart of the Liberal National Party. He brought in the national curriculum, which is a feeder for the global agenda, for the woke agenda from the United Nations and the World Economic Forum. That's now going across. If you had back to the states running their education departments, independent, then whoever comes up with the best education system, people move to that state. Whoever comes up with the best power system, people move to that state. That's the way we're set up. We are set up with a competitive federalism template that we stole from the Yanks. Great idea. Minimal public service operations from the central government, maximum at the state, but overall most of it in the private sector. It's being destroyed. Government is doing increasingly things that the private sector should be doing, and the federal government is taking over many of the state government functions. So we're destroying our competitive federalism. We used to have a marketplace in governance. Joe Bjelke-Petersen in Queensland, you've probably not experienced him.
No.
Wonderful man. Very, very strong. Balanced the budgets, decreased taxes, put in place infrastructure that we're still living off. The Queensland economy thrived under Joe. What he did was he removed estate duties, death duties, estate tax. When you die, you have to pay tax. So they get you in the grave. He abolished that. And so what happened? People from other states moved to Queensland to die. Literally, because they would have more money left to their kids.
Yeah.
So what did the other state governments do? They abolished death duties, estate taxes. So what's Labor trying to do now? Raise the same taxes federally. So you can see what I'm getting at. Competitive federalism is a marketplace in governance. Wherever you have choice, you get accountability. Wherever you get accountability, you get truth. That's the way back. But there's something else too. Our country is not a monarchy. It's a constitutional monarchy. In a monarchy, the country is ruled by the king or queen. Our kings or queen do not rule us. They serve us through the Constitution. Our Constitution is the supreme governing entity of our country. It's a wonderful Constitution. Not perfect, but it's wonderful. So what happens is that makes us a republic. The king or queen have only reserve powers. They don't have any power over our country, just reserve powers. If the shit hits the fan in whatever capacity constitutionally, then they have some powers that are dealt with in the Constitution. So we are actually a republic, which means that the rule of law is the supreme governing instrument, the Constitution. But there's something else to understand. The top power in the country is not Parliament. The top power in the country is we, the people. So the people watching this, you're in charge of this country. And what's happened, Sam, is that we have let that go as a people. We've let that go, and we've got the governments we deserve because we're letting the governments think that they rule us. We're letting them think that we serve the governments. That's bullshit. They're supposed to serve us. And what's happening is that people in Australia have become fat and sloppy, let it go, and we become a passive democracy, which is not a democracy anymore. People are just saying, oh, well, whatever, won't vote. Now, what that leads to is apathy, and that leads to a tyranny. And then you've got the shit hits the fan.
I think we're getting close to total democracy. Have you ever heard that word, total democracy?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so total democracy, I had a friend on here the other day. His name's Matt Williams. He is an independent war reporter, probably one of the best in the world. He's been on the front lines in Ukraine. He lives in Adelaide, and he's been on the front lines in Israel and Gaza. Fantastic mind, huge intellect. Whenever I get him on here, I feel like I'm a dumbass because he just speaks so elegantly and well. But he has a thing called total democracy, and it's almost like we're in now. Like anyone is free to do whatever they want, but if you question certain things, the government's going to come after you for it. So they may think that you're in a total democracy, but you don't have a say in anything that the government does anymore because it is ruled by one party, but they're different parties.
Yes.
So that's called a total democracy. And then they come for stuff like speech as well. Speech laws and stuff like that come in that. So you can live in a democracy if you don't question what we say. And then you can vote, but you can only vote for two parties, like what's happening in South Australia at the moment, right? Like a grassroots movement can't form up in South Australia because Peter Malinauskas, that prick, Peter Malinauskas came out and said there's no more political donations from anyone, and it's capped at $5,000. But what he didn't mention, Peter Malinauskas, is that his funding from the government comes off the last election's results. So if he gets 45% of the vote, he gets 45% of the taxpayer dollars. So, And then Peter Malinowskis spent $145 million in the past 2 years on advertising for the Labor Party. And then I want to start my grassroots movement and I'm capped at $5,000. That's called a total democracy, because him and his mate, Vincent Tarzia, who run the Liberal Party, they're both the exact same. Yeah. So when someone comes out and says we live in a democracy, no, we live in a total democracy where you can say what you want, but you can't question the government. You can vote, but you can only vote for these two parties. That's a total democracy. I think we're getting there.
Yeah, and it's not just Australia. It's not just South Australia either. It's not just Australia. If you look on the global sphere, and the Anglo countries, for example, Britain, red versus blue party. New Zealand, red versus blue party. Canada, red versus blue party.
And they both want mass immigration.
All the same. They're a uni party in each of these countries. In Australia, red versus blue. In America, it's not red versus blue, it's blue versus red. The colours have been swapped. The Republicans are red and the Democrats are blue. So it's the same deal set up everywhere. And these countries think that they're democracies. They're not. They're controlled by the media, controlled by the big banks, controlled by BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. But legally, they cannot get away with it unless our dopes in Canberra and dopes in Adelaide, in Parliament, actually put in place their policies. That's the problem. And so they get away with it in turn because we, the people, are the real problem because we're not standing up and holding them accountable. To be in a democracy, you must have an active voice. You must have an active participation. It's not just turning up for an election and have a vote. It's a matter of getting informed, seeing behind the party veils, and looking at the best candidate and look at him or her on strength of character, values, policies, and look at the differences in policies. Not what they say, but what they actually do. So that's the first thing. But that's not the election is not the end of your role in democracy. It then starts with calling up your MP and saying, "What the hell are you doing with pushing that policy through? Rescind that. Well, you're supposed to be working for me. I want you to vote this way." That's what they and you don't just send an email and that's it, done. They don't take notice of emails. What you've got to do is knock on their door and say, "And I want to come in and have a talk with you," and persist and persist and persist until you can. That's what I was doing when I was fighting the climate scam. You know, you're talking about a conspiracy. I don't use that word because it's been used to denigrate people who just think differently.
Well, if you're not a conspiracy theorist these days, you're just not paying attention.
Thank you. So, I've been trained in atmospheric gases. I know what carbon dioxide is capable of. It's not capable of warming the planet. It actually cools the bloody planet. That's what the atmosphere does. The atmosphere cools the Earth's surface, whether it's land or ocean. So if the atmosphere cools the surface, that means the land is warming the atmosphere. It's not warming. That's not the atmosphere warming the land. It's the land warming the atmosphere. So I thought, this is bullshit because I've been trained in atmospheric gases. I've got to keep people alive. I'm a mining engineer who spent most of his life in leadership, but I got that training, and I realised that what they were saying was bullshit. So I'm not capable of just speaking about it straight away. I've got to get my facts. So I went and got my facts and realised I was right. Then I said, well, who's pushing this rubbish? The United Nations. I did my research on them. And I came back with a bureaucrat. One man started this, Maurice Strong. And he said, the enemy is humanity itself. That's the kind of people pushing this agenda. That's the kind of anti-human approach. But Maurice Strong had two globes, a phenomenal intellect, a phenomenal brain, but just wicked human. He said he had two aims with his life. One is to deindustrialize Western civilization, and the other one was to put in place an unelected socialist global government. They're not my words, Sam. They're the bureaucrats' words. Cristiano Figueres, former head of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, pushing this climate bullshit, said the real agenda is to put in place the new world economic order. This is from many, many bureaucrats are saying the same thing. So don't listen to you and me gabbing on about it. That's coming from the United Nations themselves, the World Economic Forum themselves. And then you sit back and I said, well, hang on, what's the motive? The motive is control of people and wealth transfer. Wealth transfer from you and me through to BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street and their ultimate owners. Because BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard and First State, they're all interconnected ownership.
They own each other.
That's right. So you can't ever track them down. But that's what they're after, control and wealth transfer. Nothing new in that. That's what governments have been used to put in place on behalf of other people for millennia. That's what it's all about.
Do you want me to understand? I might break it down for everyone here. The how this results into you getting coordinated to what you see and hear from BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street
Through the media.
Yeah. So BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. People might come out and say, "Oh, Murdoch owns the news." Blah blah blah. He doesn't. BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. They own a 25% stake across all of the media corporations in Australia,
including Murdoch.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
I haven't investigated Murdoch.
Yeah, but so they come out, right? It doesn't matter if Murdoch owns the news. BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, they own the board. That's what matters. If they own the board,
got it. Yep, you're right.
So if they own the board, and let's say, for example, something happens in Australia like left-wing violence down at the marches in Melbourne, and the police commissioner comes out and says it's left-wing violence, and then the media comes out and says, or they blank out left-wing violence, who do you think tapped them on the shoulder from the board who told them to do that? BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. That's who did
Correct.
it. That's who tapped them on the board. And when it came down...
Oh, this is good. This is good.
And when it come down, they tapped the editor and the news reporter, like good little servants they are, they lie to the Australian people because they're being told to do that from up above. It's just like...
And who owns the defence companies?
BlackRock, Vanguard,
who owns the pharmaceutical companies?
BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street.
And when I was speaking out so strongly, and we continue to speak out so strongly against the COVID fraud, that's what it was. It was a mismanaged fraud. We can cover that. I was banned on Sky News. I was told by a producer of a Sky News program, I won't mention the name to protect them, but I was told that my name was on a list of people not to appear on Sky News. Now, Sky News supposedly lets in conservatives.
They're the free voice.
Yes, but I was banned on a list. So the ABC wouldn't have me. None of the mainstream news have me because of what you just said. So they control the media, they control the narrative, and that's what... So there's censorship in place. Now what they want to do is control your energy. What's his name? Kissinger, Henry Kissinger, the American, murdered millions of people with the wars he created. He said, if you control, whoever controls money, food, and energy controls the continent. He was talking about the United States. The same applies to Australia, the same applies to every continent, Europe, Asia, and then it applies globally. So what are they trying to do with the energy policies? Control energy. It's not about generating a new source of energy generation. It's about controlling the energy and restricting its use. It's about smart meters they're fitting so they can control. Some people think, God, it never stops. Some people think that they want to put smart meters on to help you manage your system. That's bullshit. They're controlling air conditioners in Queensland right now. They're controlling when the grid collapses. You try to use your solar panel power, they'll shut it down on your rooftop solar, shut it down to stop you feeding into the grid because it'll destabilize the grid. This is just managed decline. Your foods, they determine what you're eating. They're talking now about cattle farting and burping affecting your food, affecting your environment.
Who owns Woolworths and Coles?
Yes.
Who owns Woolworths and Coles? Woolworths and Coles. BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street.
Let's be careful so that people can understand what you're getting at. They control the board. They control the chief executives and the other executives of many companies. So they don't have to get majority ownership. Yeah. They can control a company with minority ownership. And that's what they're doing, because many investors are mums and dads. They don't vote at the annual general meeting. Superannuation funds, they don't vote, or they're told where to vote. So that leaves the controlling interest in BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, First State representatives. And they control Qantas. They control, not Virgin yet, but they control just about every country. Australia, the Japanese...
They own 7 to 8% of stocks globally.
Yep. And they control entire countries. And
do you know the ESG rating? So ESG rating is called environmental, social, and governance. Environmental, obviously, you know what that is. Social is like DEI, transgenderism. Yep. Governance is like, are you working the board to how we want you to work the board?
Get this. BlackRock is now denigrating ESG.
I've heard that.
Because the head of BlackRock came out a couple of months ago and
Larry
said that.
Finks.
They've got a new one. But he came out and said that they don't believe in ESG anymore. Why? Because it hurts profit.
There you go.
That's why.
Why? Because sometimes the people speak now. If you bring out a ad campaign, let's say, what did I see the other day? Adidas, maybe a year ago, they bring out this transgender ad campaign. Everyone started dumping their stock.
Look at Jaguar. One of the proudest car manufacturers in the world. Remember the ads that they've now got? Yeah. They don't even mention that they build cars.
Everyone needs to go back to getting Sydney Sweeney for Jeans West. That's what we need to do. And you'll sell some stuff. But she got called a Nazi for that one. They called Jeans West. They came out and they were like, that's a Nazi ad. And it's like, no, it's just a really hot chick in some jeans. Like, what's wrong with that?
Well, now the British Empire is called a colonial imposter, colonial invader.
Well, we're called the same thing. That's what I think. One thing, and this is, I asked a lot of politicians this, and I've done a bit of research on it. So our power bills, only talking domestic power bills, right? I'm not talking about businesses or whatever. So we pay around 25 to 30 billion a year in domestic power bills. That's you and I, everyone. And
what do you mean 25 to 30?
25 to 30 billion dollars worth of power bills. Every single year. Now we export 450 billion dollars worth of natural resources a year. We don't, not from what I see, we may do royalty taxes and stuff like that, but when that hits the boat and leaves our shores, I don't see any type of tax on China, India, Taiwan, any buyers of all that stuff. I've always thought to myself, right, and this is if I ran a campaign, the first thing I would do is a 5% tax. It can be whatever you want, 25, 10, whatever. But I would say a 5% tax when it leaves our shores, and everyone for the first 2 years while we transition back to coal and gas or whatever we want, we're going to pay off your power bills. And China are going to do that, and India are going to do that. And if they don't want to do that, then they can go get coal and gas from somewhere else.
Yep.
And I thought to myself, that is an awesome policy.
Norway does that.
Yeah, of course they do.
And they've got oil and gas.
Qatar does that.
And Qatar does that, that's right. So John Howard, there's that name again. Yeah. His government is the one that sold our gas.
Is that something which free. Like One Nation would look at?
Yes.
You can call it the Sam Bamford policy if you want.
Pauline Hanson doesn't have a super sophisticated, university-driven political strategy. She just says to us, is it in Australia's interest? Yes, do it. Is it not in Australia's interest? Don't do it. That's that simple. We've got to get back to what I kept saying, the government serving the people and in the national interest. Government serving the people in the national interest. And we've got to look after our resources and use them for us. Queensland, we were talking about resources. We are the world's biggest energy exporters. Did you know that? When you add gas and coal, we're the world's biggest energy exporters. But we can't use the stuff here. We've got amongst the highest gas prices in the world and amongst the highest electricity prices in the world. When I was a boy, I used to go to school in Kurri Kurri High School in Hunter Valley, and I cycled past the Alcan aluminium smelter. It came to Australia and the Hunter Valley because of cheap coal, cheap electricity. Same with Tomago smelter. Alcan's gone. Tomago is now about to go. And what they're doing is they're taking your taxes, your electricity bills, and subsidising now companies because the companies can't afford to operate here in Australia anymore. So we're paying twice. We're paying for subsidies, we're paying for flaws in CIS system, but we're also subsidising companies to stay here because of high electricity prices. Electricity is the foundation of modern society. The economy is energy is the economy. Energy is the economy. That's it. And we're destroying that. We're destroying our food system. We're destroying our housing market. Managed decline.
Also as well...
But they're all solvable.
Yeah. Well, 100% they are. And they're solvable within 12 to 18 months. Everyone knows that.
And wasn't it John F. Kennedy, who said... the problems have been created by humans, so all you have to do is reverse them.
It's very, very simple. I also, one of the things as well, I think, which is good with you guys, you can have this cultural battle over the next couple of years as well to get like men out of women's sports and stuff like that. Now, would you just simply pull funding from these organisations that are pushing this dangerous ideology down on the people?
Well, we've already been highly effective, Sam. I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but I was one of the first to start calling it out in Parliament, because it's just bullshit. It's just straight wrong. You cannot change your XX female chromosomes to XY male chromosomes. You can't change it. You can't change your XY male chromosomes to XX female chromosomes. We've been calling that out. When I first started calling it out in the Senate, I would speak up, and we'd have 5 Greens denigrating me. Last time, Alex Antic, who's a good bloke, he introduced a bill about not funding gender operations or gender chemical castration, which is what it really is, from the federal funding. And he couldn't speak because he introduced the bill. He would have loved to have. So I got up first and spoke. And this will show you how much the times have changed. Nick McKim, your mate, was the one who stood up, and he just went ballistic, just berserk. He was so bad, so off kilt, that I said to my staff, get his speech, please, and post it on my website. And we got tons. It was just shocking. Then then Matt Canavan spoke, Pauline spoke, Ralph Babette spoke. I think there were a total of 5 people spoke. That was the only Green. It used to be me and 5 Greens. Now it's 5 of us and 1 of the Greens. And what we did by speaking up more and more again, we did several things. There's an Australian, New Zealand Psychologists or Psychiatrists Association. They've been quiet until a couple of years ago, and they suddenly picked up their courage and said, gender dysphoria, the treatment for gender dysphoria, gender affirmation is the wrong treatment for gender dysphoria. We know that. We've been talking about that. But they only had the courage when they saw a few of us speak out about it. You see parents go along at high schools in Queensland. There's a Queensland high school on the Sunshine Coast. The principal was organising a drag queen night for the kids, right? The parents got wind of it and said, not on, and went to the principal, and he scrapped it. Good. So that's what I'm saying. We've got to get more actively involved in our democracy and protecting our standards, because the kids are the ones who suffer.
I spoke about this the other day in a reel where we need to start having the cultural battle back in Australia again. Like, for too long, we have been silenced by being called a racist, a bigot, a Nazi, all those things. It doesn't matter anymore, right? Like, you can say them words to me. I've been called that many times now. It's just the water off a duck's back. I almost take it with pride now whenever someone calls me that.
Well, labels,
I'm over the target. So.
Labels are the last refuge of the ignorant, the incompetent, the fearful, and the dishonest. When someone calls me a label, I say, thank you very much, Sam. You've just proven that you haven't got an argument. Otherwise, you would have used it.
I'm actually doing debate training at the moment with, it's mate, this is one thing I recommend everyone to do in their life, continually learns things. And I thought to myself, I want to become really, really good at debating. So I went and contacted one of the head debaters in South Australia, and we debate for an hour every Monday. And I pay her to debate me behind closed doors. But it's something I want to really get good at, because there's potentially in the future I want to go, have high-profile debates against people.
I find I get so many things going through my head that I have to write it down, either in bullet point form or a speech, because I can get more across more accurately. But I'd love to be able to speak more off the cuff, but it's just so much shit going through my head.
It's all about controlling emotions at the end of the day. And also as well, this is the point I'm getting to. When someone starts to refer to you as names, you've won the debate straight away.
That's what I was getting at with my point.
You've always won, yep. And I think, look, the cultural battles now are starting to be had on social media in across everywhere. Platforms are starting to rise up. Common sense is starting to come back. My platform's there's 4 or 5 others, and now I'm seeing a whole bunch of smaller platforms come up as well. So, there's a few people that potentially, like yourself, have paved the way in Parliament, which has paved the way for the cultural revolution, and then more people are rising up, and then you'll get all them little coward politicians that have been sitting there saying nothing because they want to stay relevant with the people. They'll jump behind everyone else and start saying, it's like, hey, where were you 18 months ago? Where were you 2 years ago?
Yep.
So
Pauline's been, and I've been consistent on net zero. I opposed it from the start. Consistent on immigration, mass migration, opposed it from the start. Culture wars, opposed them from the start. Housing, we've had a policy from the start. We've seen this coming. Pauline Hanson said we're in danger of being swamped. She wasn't calling out any particular race. She was calling out the fact that if you bring in so many people from one particular country, China, doesn't matter, whatever country, Swahili, doesn't matter, whatever country, then you will swamp your culture. And the culture is the most important driver of behavior in any organization. Football club, if the culture is wrong, you're buggered. You'll never get up. If the church culture is wrong, if the business culture, the organizational
political
culture. Political party, that's right.
And like, look, and this is, we might sort of touch on finishing with this subject. Is I want to talk to you about lobbying to the government, because this is one thing that I am willing to fight and die on this hill over the next couple of years. Because I think if you
he
take
says that
out,
with a smile on his
yeah,
face.
that's right.
Looking forward to it.
Because I think to myself, if we take out, now not all lobbying, because I was told there's a certain amount of lobbying, like fundraising lobbying, from not-for-profits and charities. That lobbying might be able to stay, but lobbying from big business and like foreign influence, like potentially like AJAC, and then I know Taiwan has a lobbying group. Like I don't think that's good at all. I think that needs to stop completely. I think that if countries want to have a relationship between each other or country business, there needs to be organised meetings by the government, and the government tax-paying dollars needs to pay that person to go over to, whether it be Israel or Taiwan or anywhere like that.
Say that again. I didn't understand what you mean.
So for example, let's talk about AJAC, Australia Israel Jewish something Council. They have paid for, since 2010, 147 members of parliament to go over and do the Rambam tour over in Israel. And that's lobbying to the government on behalf of a foreign country. Now,
so they're paying citizens who then come back and lobby the government?
No.
Oh, they're paying MPs?
MPs. Yep. They're paying MPs there. They go do a week tour over there, and then they come back, and it's like they're normally pro-Israel when they come back. Now, Taiwan do it as well. They've done 57 since the last few years, so they're on similar sort of numbers. I know Qatar do it in a different type of format, but it's hard to do research on it because it's quite dug deep. Yeah. So they've got it. And I know China directly just pay from their government to get people over to China. We don't need to look at China any more than Dan Andrews standing next to freaking
I'm just thinking that
Kim Jong-un. Jacinta Allen, she's been captured by China, and also Brad Batten, he's about to go over there as well. And I think to myself, Brad, hey, you've got a machete crisis. Your problem is not in China. If you want to win the next election over there, you stay in Melbourne. Mm-hmm. But anyway, this lobbying, right, which is done by big business and foreign governments, I think it needs to stop, because if we're letting our politicians be lobbied to, that's not Australia first. That is them first, mm-hmm. Australia second. Mm-hmm. And like I've said before, I'm starting a movement, Australia first till I die. That's what I want. So, and that means one of the hills I'm willing to fight and die on is lobbying needs to stop, because it coordinates a different messaging that's not Australia first to our politicians through foreign or big interests or big business interests. So what would you say about lobbying? Because I want that to stop, and I'm just looking for someone to be like, we're going to tackle it.
Well, at the moment, every politician, at least federally, and I think it would be the same statewide, but I don't know. Every politician federally, every member of parliament has to declare any donations or gifts, whether that be gifts in kind, travel, accommodation, bottle of wine, over a certain threshold. And I'm sure a trip to Israel is more than $300. So you disclose that right now, so you can tell, and then do your citizen's job, which is say, why did you, Mr. X, go over to Israel? Why did you, Mr. X, go to Taiwan? It's up to you then to hold him accountable or her accountable on that. The second thing I'd say is that citizens initiated referendum. You know what that is?
No.
Okay. I'll tell you a story. I was born in India. We stayed my first 6 years, all my formative years in India. We had an expat Australian and expat British group in India, and we met up with Auntie Betty. She was an Australian who married a Pommy, and later on we kept in touch with her in Australia. Back then we called non-aunties aunties, just because they were older. That's how we respected them. So anyway, Auntie Betty was about 60, and she visited Switzerland, and I said to Auntie Betty, "What do you think of Switzerland?" And I was expecting her to say, friendly people, very tidy, crime-free, beautiful landscape. You know what she said to me? This woman who'd never taken an interest in politics, she said, the politicians are responsible. And I went, what? What do you mean? And then later on I found out in Switzerland they have citizens-initiated referendum for two things. First of all, if the politicians pass a law that you don't like, you can start a petition, and if you get a fairly small number of the percentage of the population signatures, they then have to have a referendum on that election, on that legislation. So that legislation is put to the people. That's why the politicians are accountable. That's why the politicians are responsible. It happens in many countries around the world.
Not in Australia.
No, it doesn't. But it's been one nation policy for 20 odd years. The other thing is, it happens if I'm a politician, say in a position of power like a prime minister or a minister, then you can get a petition going up. We've got a, what do they call that? Recall election. So we want to get rid of Malcolm Roberts. Get 5% of the signatures and away you go. And then the peoples have a vote as to whether I stay in my job or not as minister. So that's extremely important. And that's what puts pressure on politicians. At the moment, the media covers them up. The parties cover them up. Parliamentary debate covers them up. They only go so far. You know, why have we got a politician? Not anymore. He's retired now. But he sold the port of Darwin to the Chinese Communist Party, because that's the Chinese government.
CCP.
And then he retired and reportedly got into salary within months of $880,000. And his ministerial salary was probably only about $300,000 back then. So he trebled it. So that's not accountability. So when you put in place a system like you're talking about, it can easily be got around. But you put it in place with the system that goes to the power of the people, the power to the people, then it's hard to get around. But the difficulty is you've got to wake people up to get it.
Yeah, and I think that definitely goes away to solving lobbying, because if the people can get a certain amount of percentage and then we don't like it, we can raise up and say, hey, let's do a vote on this. But I would love to see a politician come out and say, I don't care if it's over $300 or anything, lobbying stops now. If you want to do something through our government, if Israel or Taiwan want to have affairs through our government... Oh,
just through a government?
Yeah.
Because what I was going to say...
Then they have to do that just through the government. So if like...
Okay, now you got me. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But then what would happen... There's always ways of getting around it. I don't like regulations, because regulations hide things, and regulations are there to protect the people who you think they're trying to hurt. The banks hide behind regulations. They hide behind regulations. The banks' regulations are punishing you and me and farmers who are in default, not even in default, but who have a loan. So you've got to be very, very careful, because when you put in place a regulation, they come up with other ways to get around it. You've got to put another regulation. So look at the cash ban bill, for example. Morrison introduced a bill to limit the payment for something for $10,000. Okay, you couldn't pay anything over $10,000 with cash. That's if he got it through. He voted for it. The Liberal Party voted for it in the lower house. The Labor Party voted for it. We did a lot of lobbying amongst the reverse lobbying with the members of the Liberal Party and the Labor Party. When I say we, my office did that, and we got so much heat from them onto the Liberal Party and Labor Party senators that they consigned the bill to a committee. They didn't want to touch the damn thing. We did the same with the misinformation and disinformation bill. Pauline and I created such a fuss about that when Morrison introduced it, but then the Labor Party was threatening to introduce it, we created such a fuss that they pulled it back. But with the cash ban bill, getting back to that, we created so much heat that it was just left to sit in that committee. And so after 3 months, I went, what the hell? I might as well move a motion to get it off the books. And it got up because Liberal and Labor Party were afraid of going against my motion. So that's how to deal with it. If the grassroots gets involved, so that's why I want to compliment you for the work you're doing. You're educating people to stand up and to be informed. Because once we get an informed, educated society, real education on the political system, then we'll get real active democracy. And that's the saving grace. Put the power back with the people, because that's where it is, and that's where it should be. That's where it is in the law, but people don't realise it.
Yeah,
so keep going, mate.
Yeah, I will, definitely. And just before we wrap up, I'll just, just I don't want to push on lobbying too much, but I would just love to see one nation come in and just have a good stance on lobbying, whether that be there be like a certain percentage they can do. I would love to see it wiped out altogether. If it got
lobbying from foreign governments, I agree entirely. But what I'm saying is that lobbying in general is so easy to get around.
Yeah.
But the gifts registry is not.
Yeah, well, that might be the option. But the thing is with lobbying from lobbying with foreign governments, they just do it from...
you got me there.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
Because they're lobbying on behalf of a...
Yes.
And it's like, hey, like that. I don't want to be in Israel's wars. I don't want to be in Taiwan. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to do any of that. Like, I want to stay away from that. And again, it's just like for our politicians, it is like the culture now is it's Australia first until we die. And if that's not you, get out of my Parliament House.
But at the same time, Sam, we've got to wake up to the fact that the Liberal and Labor Party people have been just falling over themselves to fall in line behind the Yanks to go into many, many different wars around the world. What are we doing that for? I mean, we had the President of the United States, George Bush Jr., saying we're going into Iraq because of weapons of mass destruction.
It was never there.
No, but then Tony Blair did the same thing. Tony Blair and then John Howard did the same thing. And what was it, 2 or 3 years later, they admitted there was never any evidence of weapons of mass destruction. Not one politician that I know of in any of those 3 democracies stood up and held their leader accountable and tried to dismiss him. Not one. I don't think anyone even mentioned it. That's not democracy. No. That's just subservience. And again, who wins out of that? BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, First State, etc.
Dick Cheney won out of that because he gave all his mates some no-bid contracts over in where was it, Saudi Arabia or whatever, and they all won the Halliburton. But yeah, no, I think and
so we've got to hold governments accountable. Swing them back to being in service of the people.
Just quickly before we wrap up, I did see something of Australian troops going to Gaza to be like a international peace force so they can rebuild the place. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, hang on, this is a huge risk here. Like, why would we, given that I've been over to the desert and I've fought over there, I would not want one single Australian going over there to rebuild a city that we had nothing to do with. I mean, if America wants to give them billions of dollars, Israel every single year so they can bomb that place, well then that's them. But like, we shouldn't have to come in and we shouldn't be putting troops on the ground. Now, the biggest issue I see with this, and one of the things that downstream could hurt us massively, is a false flag thing that happens over there. Now, whether that be through China, Russia, Israel itself,
that would never happen.
Qatar, anyone like that, if they kill Australian soldiers or if they kill a US soldier, then the Australian public, we need to go to war. And it's like, hang on, like, I'm not willing to risk rebuilding Gaza with Australian troops around it for a false flag attempt.
Mate, I'm not willing to risk bringing in immigrants from Gaza.
Yeah, they need to go back.
Reportedly, deport them. Yeah, remigrate them. Reportedly, not one Arab neighbour country, and I don't mean just immediate neighbours, I'm talking about Saudi Arabia, not one Arab country will take a Gaza refugee. Not one. We bring them in under Labor with 1 hour vetting. I mean, we've got Hamas, the worst terrorist organisation in the world, in charge there. How do we know they didn't bring some of their people in? I mean, this is insane.
Yeah. I mean, my foreign...
And I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, my foreign thing is, hey, stay out of that. That's got nothing to do with us. I mean, the last time we went over and got ourselves involved in the war, we came back 20 years later and we replaced the Taliban with the Taliban.
Yep.
And I think to myself, guys, if we get wrapped up going over there and there's a false flag event and then we go all in because Australian soldiers have died, it's like, don't even risk it. Don't risk that part of the world. We have got a housing crisis. We've got an energy crisis. We've got woke DEI policies coming on us, a cost of living crisis. People are choosing between food and rent. And we're thinking about sending soldiers over there that's going to put us in more debt. Come on, guys.
Choosing between food and heating, food and air conditioning. That's what they're choosing.
Yeah. But no, it's good to see that, your stance is very similar on that, and that, I don't want to speak for you, but you're probably thinking that.
You just did.
Yeah. I don't want anyone to go over there. That's the US and Israel's problem, not ours.
Correct.
Well, Malcolm Roberts, mate, I love talking to Parliament members, and especially people that have been there for a while. I'm still waiting on Chris Bowen's reply for him to come in and debate me about the green energy scam, but he won't come in and do that because I'll expose him
Look
too
under
much.
the rug.
Yeah, that's right.
He's always hiding.
But mate, you're always welcome back on. And thank you very much for coming on Two Worlds Collide podcast. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. And keep going with the independent, free media, because that's the only way to maintain freedom and accountability in this country, mate. Keep going.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to Two Worlds Collide podcast. If you want to support what I'm doing, you can grab some merch or jump on my Patreon program. Both links are in the description. Until next week, take care, guys.